What happens when the new high-end laptop you bought fails completely 2 weeks later? And not because of some technical glitch, but because the company's customer service is just a black hole.
Right.
Or, maybe you paid a massive fee to a coaching class that promised all this personalized mentorship.
And then delivered, well, nothing.
Exactly. Navigating the labyrinth of consumer justice in India shouldn't be harder than the UPSC exam itself, but for so many people, the path is it's complex, it's expensive, and it's overwhelming.
Indeed. And, the measure of a modern welfare state isn't just the laws it passes. It's about how effective the institutions are that it creates for enforcement.
The actual machinery on the ground.
Precisely. The ability of an ordinary citizen to get timely and effective justice against market exploitation. That's the true measure of governance efficiency. And understanding this machinery is crucial, not just for real life, but fundamentally for mastering a key part of governance and polity for the UPSC exam.
Especially for mains paper 2, where they test administrative capacity all the time.
All the time.
Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to the Deep Dive, brought to you by Simplified UPSC by PPP. Our mission, as always, is to give you that analytical edge by extracting the most important, nuanced knowledge from definitive sources like M. Laxmikanth's Indian Polity 8th edition. Today, we're cutting through the complexity of Chapter 37, consumer commissions, and serving up the structural and functional insights you need for your preparation. But before we jump into the legislative mechanics, we have a quick but a really vital request. If you're finding this deep, detailed analysis valuable, the kind that cuts through the textbook jargon and really connects the dots for you, please take a moment right now, just hit that like button and share your valuable comment.
It's a small action, but it massively boosts our reach. It tells the algorithms to keep pushing this kind of high-quality analysis to dedicated learners like you.
It really does help.
And to keep these deep dives coming, meticulously tailored from these dense sources, we do rely entirely on your support. We put a lot of hours into this. Please, if you are capable, consider joining our paid membership right here on YouTube and, of course, subscribing to our channel.
And a huge shout out to all of our existing members. You are the cornerstone of this entire operation. Your support is fundamental, and it helps us dedicate the resources needed to create these extensive analyses that provide real value. So thank you.
A quick reminder for your preparation: free notes, complete with practice PYQs to test your understanding, are available on our Telegram channel.
But for that critical competitive edge, our premium members, our legends on YouTube, get exclusive access to extra practice PYQs and model mains answers on our Discord channel.
Make sure you join there for that administrative and analytical edge. Okay, so we have to begin with the most critical distinction in this area of governance, the foundational legal shift.
Right. Where do we start?
Well, the enforcement of consumer rights in India today is governed not by that old familiar framework from 1986.
Which is what a lot of people still think of.
Exactly. It's governed by the Consumer Protection Act, 2019. And this is the key point. It didn't just amend the old structure. It completely repealed and replaced the older 1986 Act.
That's the first mandatory step for any exam prep then, knowing it's a total replacement. But let's dig into the why. Why was a complete repeal necessary? The 1986 Act was pretty groundbreaking for its time, wasn't it?
It was, globally. But the market realities have changed fundamentally since then. The old structure failed to keep pace for, I'd say, 3 main reasons.
Okay.
First, and most obviously, the massive rise of e-commerce. The older law just struggled to define jurisdiction.
When the buyer is in one city, the seller in another, and the platform is registered somewhere else entirely.
Precisely. The concept of where the cause of action arises became incredibly ambiguous and complex. It just delayed justice.
And the 2019 Act fixed that.
It did. It streamlined jurisdiction, allowing consumers to file complaints where they reside, which is a huge reduction in the barrier to justice for online transactions.
That's a big deal. What was the second failure?
The absence of robust regulation for product liability. Under the old Act, the burden was largely on the consumer to prove negligence by the seller or the manufacturer.
Which is almost impossible for an individual.
Almost. The 2019 Act introduced the concept of strict liability against the manufacturer, the service provider, or the seller. It recognizes that in modern supply chains, you just can't prove direct negligence.
So it shifts the burden of proof. It creates a sort of liability against the product itself. That's a huge step for a welfare state.
A massive step. And third, the 1986 Act really lacked teeth against misleading advertisements. It didn't have a distinct regulatory body for enforcement.
So the 2019 Act created one.
Yes, it created the Central Consumer Protection Authority, or CCPA. This gave the government the power to recall unsafe goods, issue directions, and impose penalties for false advertising. It's an essential response to modern corporate marketing.
So this whole overhaul, it's really India adapting its legal framework, much like constitutional amendments keep our polity up to date.
Absolutely. And if you link this back to the preamble, this robust new mechanism is a practical reflection of achieving social and economic justice.
The state isn't just maintaining order, it's actively protecting the economically weaker party in any transaction.
Exactly. Article 38 of the DPSP directs the state to secure a social order to promote the welfare of the people. Consumer protection, especially against powerful MNCs, is a tangible modern realization of that ideal.
It moves the state away from that old colonial police state model
Towards a comprehensive welfare state where the government actively intervenes to ensure fairness. And that commitment is manifested institutionally in the dispute resolution mechanism.
the three-tier system.
Correct. The core institutional mechanism of the 2019 Act is this mandated three-tier consumer dispute redressal machinery.
It's an integrated system.
Crucially integrated. It's designed for accessibility and scalability, handling complaints based on the value of the goods or services.
So the top bodies don't get swamped with minor issues.
Exactly. And we need to know the official nomenclature for each tier. The first, at the grassroots level, is the District Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission.
We can just call it the District Commission.
Right. Then, moving up the chain, you have the middle tier for higher value cases and appeals from the District Commission. That's the State Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission.
Or the State Commission.
And finally, at the top, providing systemic oversight, is the National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission.
The National Commission.
And this integrated hierarchical structure is itself a key component of effective governance. It allows a national law to be implemented uniformly within India's federal structure.
It's a consciously unified system, very different from, say, the dual judiciary in the U.S.
Very different. India opts for this integrated model to ensure standardization and efficiency.
All right, let's get into the structural and functional nuances of these commissions. These details, composition, powers, jurisdictions, this is what makes for a high-scoring answer in mains. It shows you understand the operational architecture of the state.
Let's start at the grassroots with the District Commission. Now, the composition might seem like a simple detail, but it actually reveals a significant administrative tension.
How so?
Each District Commission has to have a president who usually has judicial experience and not less than 2 members. That's the mandated minimum.
Okay, a minimum. But what about capacity? A district in Mumbai will have a way higher caseload than a remote district somewhere else.
And that's addressed by leaving the maximum number of members flexible. It's not fixed in the Act.
So who decides the maximum?
It's determined by prescription, meaning by a regulatory mandate, but, and this is the key part, in consultation with the central government.
Ah, so that's the central state balance in action. Why does the state have to consult the center on staffing its own district commissions?
Well, the central law mandates the structure, and often funding and standardization guidelines come from the center. The central government maintains that oversight to ensure uniformity and minimum standards across the country.
So it's a check.
It's a check. So if a state government wants to appoint, say, 5 members to a busy district commission, it has to consult the center. The center might provide input on required expertise or correlate that staffing with national caseload data.
So the state handles the local reality, but the center ensures the overall integrity of this national law.
You've got it. It prevents states from just randomly understaffing commissions, which would undermine the quality of justice.
That makes perfect sense. It's an institutional check to prevent local failures from undermining a national mandate. Okay, moving up to the middle tier, the State Commission. We said its function is dual, not just an appellate court.
Correct. The State Commission is really positioned as a critical administrative hub. It has a dual role, combining judicial oversight hearing appeals with what is very critical administrative control.
How extensive is that administrative control?
It's sweeping. The State Commission has administrative control over all the district commissions operating within its geographic jurisdiction.
All of them. So it's the institutional guardian for the entire state.
It is. This goes way beyond a simple judicial hierarchy. It means ensuring smooth administrative functioning, monitoring clearance rates and pendency, maybe even directing staff training.
And this power really culminates in its most critical procedural tool, right? The transfer jurisdiction.
Exactly. The State Commission holds the unique power to transfer any complaint pending before one district commission to another within the state.
A vital tool for managing the docket.
And it can be invoked in two ways. First, on the application of the complainant. If they cite a legitimate reason like perceived bias or a huge delay.
And the second, more powerful way,
is the State Commission's power to transfer cases on its own motion suo motu.
And here's where it gets really interesting for students of administrative law and governance.
Absolutely. This power of suo motu transfer is the key insight. It shows its role not just as a superior court, but as a proactive judicial manager.
So why is that power so crucial for the system's efficiency?
Well, imagine a scenario. A district commission in a big city suddenly gets flooded with identical complaints. Say 500 consumers who are all victims of a big real estate scam.
Okay.
Or maybe the president's position in a smaller district is vacant for months. If the State Commission had to wait for 500 individual applications for transfer, the system would just grind to a halt.
But with suo motu power, it can intervene immediately.
Immediately. It can reallocate 300 of those cases to a less burdened district or move all the cases out of a court that isn't functioning.
It ensures efficiency and stops localized failures from denying justice. But that does sound like a lot of power. Are there any checks to ensure it's not misused?
That's an excellent point, and it brings us back to due process. While the State Commission has the suo motu power, its decision must always be based on material irregularity, systemic efficiency, or grounds of justice. The order has to be reasoned and in writing.
And I assume it could be challenged.
Yes, any arbitrary transfer order would likely fall under the purview of the next tier, the National Commission, which, as we'll see, has revisional jurisdiction over procedural lapses. So the power is broad, but it's not absolute.
That brings us perfectly to the apex body, the National Commission. What distinguishes its authority?
The National Commission sits at the top, and while it does hear appeals from the state commissions, its most powerful and specialized function is its revisional jurisdiction.
Okay, and this is not just a third appeal based on the facts.
No, absolutely not. It's a strictly limited but very powerful check on the legal and procedural processes of the state commission below it.
How is that revisional jurisdiction defined? This is a critical point for exam question.
It's exercised under very strict limits. The National Commission can call for records and pass orders in any dispute, but, and this is crucial, it's not because it disagrees with the factual findings.
Okay.
It's strictly limited to cases where one of three specific legal errors is identified.
All right. What's the first ground?
First, the State Commission exercised jurisdiction not vested in it by law.
So acting ultra vires, beyond its legal power. Can you give a concrete example?
Sure. Imagine the financial limit for a state commission is cases up to 10 crore rupees. If a state commission decides to hear a case involving 12 crore rupees, it has acted ultra vires. It's exercised a power the law didn't give it.
So the National Commission would step in and nullify that order purely on that technical ground?
Exactly. Not because of the merits of the case, but because the court lacked the fundamental authority to even hear it.
Clear. What's the second ground?
The second is the opposite failure. The State Commission failed to exercise a jurisdiction so vested. This means the State Commission neglected a mandated duty. It refused to act where the law required it to act.
Can you give an example of that?
A classic one would be procedural. Let's say the Act gives the State Commission the power to dismiss a frivolous complaint at the preliminary stage, but it allows a clearly baseless, malicious complaint to drag on for years, harassing the other party. If the National Commission reviews this and finds the State Commission clearly had the power and the duty to terminate that litigation immediately but failed to do so, that could trigger revisional jurisdiction, a failure of judicial management.
And the third, which you said is often the most nuanced category.
The third, the State Commission acted illegally or with material irregularity in exercising its jurisdiction.
This is the broadest one.
It is. It covers severe procedural lapses. It ensures that even if the State Commission had the authority and it used it, the manner in which it proceeded was contrary to law. It undermined due process.
This is where things like principles of natural justice come in, right? A technical oversight that fundamentally impacted fairness.
Precisely. A material irregularity could be the State Commission refusing to allow a crucial piece of expert evidence for no good reason, or, more simply, passing an order without giving one party a proper hearing.
A denial of alteram partem.
Exactly. That denial of the right to be heard is a material irregularity, making the order vulnerable to revision.
This really is the essence of judicial integrity. It highlights the emphasis on procedural due process. It's like how the Supreme Court's role is not just to decide cases, but to defend the fundamental rights guaranteed by the Constitution. The check here is not just on what was decided, but how it was decided.
That's a very relevant connection. The revisional power of the National Commission serves a similar systemic purpose, maintaining the integrity of the dispute redressal process itself. And by doing that, it indirectly upholds the citizen's right to a fair hearing and efficient justice, which are implicit in Article 21.
Okay, this is the most critical section for our listeners. We need to move beyond just describing the architecture and use these commissions as a lens to analyze core UPSC themes: governance, federalism, the welfare state.
And they serve as a powerful real-world case study for exactly that. They embody the practical application of the welfare state concept. They are a mandated institutional commitment to realizing the preamble's ideals of social and economic justice.
We've established it's a tangible output of the DPSPs, particularly Article 38. But let's deepen that. How does providing a forum for a broken microwave equate to promoting the welfare of the people?
Because the welfare state means the state actively mitigates risk for the citizen. In a purely laissez-faire model, if your laptop breaks, that's your loss. In a welfare model supported by this act, the state imposes accountability, mitigating that risk of economic loss from market failure.
And for low-income and middle-class families, the loss of one high-value item can be devastating.
It can destabilize their entire economic standing. So by providing efficient recourse, the commissions act as an economic stabilizer, which is a necessary condition for broader social welfare.
Okay, let's connect this to implementation challenges, which pop up in mains questions all the time. Let's look at PYQ Q.4 on the Food Security Bill and WTO concerns.
Right. The Food Security Act is a monumental commitment to social welfare. The challenge, as that PYQ highlights, is all in the administration. Targeting, minimizing leakages in the PDS, the infrastructure.
The success of the act depends entirely on administrative efficiency at the state and district level.
And the parallel to the consumer commissions is striking.
I see where you're going.
The Consumer Protection Act is also a national welfare mandate. Just as the Food Security Act needs meticulous administration to eliminate hunger, this act needs fully functional commissions to eliminate the consumer equivalent of malnutrition, which is exploitation.
So if the commissions are starved of funds, staff, or infrastructure,
the legal mandate becomes hollow. Delays in disposing of cases pendency is the functional equivalent of food grain rotting in warehouses. In both cases, administrative failure undermines the legislative intent of the welfare state.
That is a brilliant analogy for a mains answer. Let's try another one. PYQ Q.8, which links land reforms, productivity, and poverty elimination. How do the consumer commissions fit into that grand narrative of structural reform?
Land reforms were about restructuring property relations in the agrarian economy, a macroeconomic structural adjustment. The consumer commissions represent a structural adjustment of market relations. They are institutional mechanisms designed to transform a historically opaque and exploitative market into one based on fairness and accountability.
So they alter the balance of power.
Fundamentally, by holding manufacturers strictly liable, the Commission forces them to internalize the cost of quality control, which improves market integrity. This creates economic confidence.
It supports the economic stability of citizens,
which is crucial for poverty elimination. So they are a form of structural market reform that contributes to that larger goal.
We also need to talk about institutional design preventing larger political issues. This brings us to that crucial PYQ on left-wing extremism, LWE, and the fifth schedule.
This is a powerful, though maybe not obvious, linkage. The sources show that the genesis of LWE often lies in the non-implementation of constitutional provisions for scheduled areas. The failure to establish mandated administrative structures, to protect land rights, to deliver justice.
So when the administrative structures for justice and welfare fail, it creates a legitimacy vacuum.
Precisely. And that can lead to serious internal security challenges. The lesson is that a failure to deliver on a constitutional promise of justice erodes state legitimacy, no matter the sector.
So the structure of the consumer commissions is Parliament's attempt to avoid such failures in the economic sphere.
Exactly. The Integrated Hierarchy State Commission Control, National Commission Revision, is designed to prevent systemic failure and the resulting loss of faith among consumers.
Finally, let's connect it to external economic pressures. The PYQ on the impact of liberalization on Indian companies, PYQ Q.7.
The post-1991 liberalization brought in MNCs and intense, often asymmetric competition. Without a robust regulatory mechanism, the consumer would be completely exposed.
So the commissions are an essential regulatory response to liberalization.
They are. They act as checks on unfair trade practices that can arise in a high-stakes, competitive, globalized market. They ensure that while markets are free, they are not completely unregulated. They protect domestic interests, including consumer safety, ensuring that liberalization serves the citizen and not just corporate profits.
It's remarkable how one chapter on 3 tiers of a quasi-judicial body becomes a vehicle for discussing constitutional ideals, cooperative federalism, internal security, and global market integration.
That is the essence of mastering the UPSC curriculum. You have to see these bodies not as legal formalities, but as operational commitments of the Indian state.
So when you write about them in mains, you don't just list the 3 grounds for a revision.
You explain that those grounds speak directly to the importance of the form of governance. It's not enough that justice is done. It must be seen to be done according to law, reflecting the constitutional guarantee of fairness.
And linking back to that very first detail we discussed, the center being consulted on the number of members for a district commission. That's not a footnote.
It's cooperative federalism in daily administrative action. The center provides the framework. The state provides the local implementation. That ongoing tension and collaboration defines our political system, and these commissions are a perfect case study of it.
So we have completed this extensive deep dive into Chapter 37 of M. Laxmikanth's Polity. We focused meticulously on that 3-tier system under the Consumer Protection Act, 2019.
Which, remember, was a crucial modernization step, replacing the 1986 Act to finally handle things like e-commerce and product liability properly.
And remember those distinct structural nuances? The district commission's composition regulated by central consultation.
The state commission's dual role, with its powerful sua motu transfer powers designed for systemic efficiency.
And of course, the National Commission's strictly limited revisional jurisdiction, which maintains the integrity of the whole process by focusing only on legal and procedural errors.
The biggest takeaway, and the point that will really get you marks in the mains exam, is that governance systems like these commissions are vital mechanisms that directly translate India's constitutional ideals of social and economic justice into reality for every single citizen.
They are the frontline defense against market failure, and their efficiency is really a measure of the health of our cooperative federalism.
We truly hope this extensive analysis was helpful for your preparation, and that the depth we went into gave you those analytical tools you need for synthesis. We do put immense effort into crafting these deep dives.
And you can help us continue this work. If this deep dive was useful, please hit the like button right now and share your valuable comment. Let us know your biggest takeaway or any questions you still have. Your engagement is how we measure our impact.
Please subscribe to Simplified UPSC by PPP, and if you are capable and find this worth the investment, please join our paid membership. A big thank you again to our existing members. You are the foundation that enables us to produce this critical, detailed content.
And don't forget your preparation resources. Find your free notes with essential practice PYQs on our Telegram channel.
And for that extra edge, access the premium model answers and more challenging PYQs on our Discord channel. That's exclusively for our Legend members. Make sure you join there.
And finally, a provocative thought to leave you with.
We noted the stark distinction between systems like the dual U.S. judiciary and our integrated Indian system, where a central law, the Consumer Protection Act, is enforced by state-level commissions.
Right.
Now, given that consumer protection requires huge, sustained infrastructure investment at the state level, salaries, buildings, experts, and that the central government dictates the structure, what unique challenges does this integrated enforcement of a central welfare law pose to the financial autonomy and administrative efficiency of the state commissions? That tension between a central legislative mandate and the state administrative and financial burden is absolutely central to the daily operations of India's cooperative federalism.
Until next time, keep digging deep into your sources and never stop connecting the dots between institutions and ideals.